essentially like your kind of democratic socialists, a lot of them land in a position of trying to put limitations and reforms around capitalism and just make it like less destructive to the average person. Do you think that balance could potentially be reached, or there could be some sort of happy medium, or do you think that systemically it is so corrosive to human flourishing and well-being that the system itself just entirely needs to be replaced? And if it needs to be replaced, what would we replace it with?
Well, that's a big question with
Just
multiple
asking you
parts. Yeah.
to answer the biggest question in our society today. No big deal.
Okay. So the first question is whether we can just find a balance between government restrictions on capitalism and capitalism also being present. I think you can find temporary balances
Hmm.
like they did in the 30s and 40s, but I think because anytime it's reducing profits, businesses are going to have the incentive to either push back or to escape the system. By escape, I mean going to other countries and abandoning the US. I don't think it can be a permanent ceasefire between the well being of citizens and capitalism. That's my opinion. I do think that people get afraid of the idea that if you're going to replace socialism, we're going to end up like the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
But I think it's inevitable that we're going to have to envision something beyond capitalism when we see where capitalism is taking us. I don't think it's really clear to people as much as it will be in the near future. But I think more and more people are saying, hey, no matter which party we turn to, it seems like our living situation is getting worse.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something behind this. I don't know how many people will get that, how fast, if it'll be in time. But I do think the main thing in capitalism that needs to change is you don't have corporations that are structured in a way that they're controlled by the investors. They have to be controlled by the workers. That's an old socialist idea. The problem was they made the government a go-between between the workers and the control of the economy. And then the government took on a life of its own.
So you would advocate for worker-led change rather than state
Well, worker controlled businesses,
over state
essentially.
mandates or
Well, the role of the government would be just to outlaw corporations that were set up for investors and make it
okay.
possible for workers to organize
I mean, I
their
agree
uh,
with that.
their businesses.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great to me. But I also don't invest in.
Yeah, of course, there's a lot of questions that this raises about exactly how that would be structured and how you go about it and how we can get from here to there. But at this point, I think what we really need is not a blueprint, but a vision. Like, how can we think of this as being different than what we've been exposed to in the past, either in our capitalist societies or in the so-called socialist societies? The things we see wrong with them, can we envision a way of having something that's different? I think that's the key question. Can you present a vision to people that they see as appealing and realistic?
And just anecdotally, a lot of people aren't there yet. From what my
Yeah.
interactions with people is you're either a capitalist or you're a commie that wants to, bring about the second Stalin and make sure millions of people die of starvation. Like there's no other option in a lot of people's minds. And obviously, I think we both disagree that those are the only two options out there. Um,
I would hope so.
yeah, I sure would hope so because both those outcomes suck. I don't like either one of them.
I agree with you on that. And you got to remember that people with wealth, there's a lot of them who want to perpetuate the system for their own benefit or because they believe in it. And they have a lot of means of propaganda. Corporations
Yeah,
control the media. Corporations control, book publishing. Corporations control filmmaking, and they're going to be very cautious about allowing anything to emerge from the system that challenges the premises that people have learned since they were children. Why capitalism is good, why we are a democracy, all that stuff. When you start, it's almost like you're raised a Christian. All of a sudden, you ask questions about the Bible. It's like you're raised in this society. If you ask a question, why does it have to be this way? It's a taboo question.
it truly is. But because okay, up until about 3 years ago, I would have just considered myself like a classic like liberal, like vote blue no matter who kind of individual. And it was only in running my own business and I saw how difficult it was to start a business, but then I saw on a micro level how easy it was to exert control over workers that I employed and like how much profit I could make in a night versus how little I could get away with paying them, even though I would like as a small business pay them way better than like even big corporations pay them. I could see in a microcosm sort of the power I could exert over people, and then you just scale that to like our society and capitalism at large. And that's kind of like the first thread that was pulled for me as an individual to start to question that system. Um, I don't even know where I was going with that, but
Yeah, that's a good point because you feel the pressure. Even if you want to do a business that's beneficial to your workers, you find the pressures pushing you in another direction. Like you can't pay too far above market wages without detriment to your prices, say.
right.
So there's restrictions on what you can do based on the fact that it's a market economy, and most of your competitors are organized in a way that's exploitative.
What do you organize society around instead of capital, instead of market, instead of what is that organizing principle that can make a society cohesive?
Let's start back with workers' control. It, market is not a problem if you're competing with businesses that are similar to your own,
Hmm.
that have the same kind of worker internal dynamics. And I think eventually, and this is kind of a projection without, it's just how I imagine the future could be. Markets are essentially negotiations,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
You're negotiating on prices. There's no reason, if everybody feels they have enough, that people can't start negotiating in a way that's mutually beneficial rather than trying to get an advantage over the other person.
Hmm. Yeah, so I've been reading more and more on like communitarian concepts. So keep
Hmm.
markets small and local, and to where all of the wealth, whatever system that is, sort of stays within the local community. Do you find any merit in those arguments and those schools of thoughts? Does that have any
Yeah.
overlap with what you're kind of proposing?
Yeah, I was exposed to those ideas a couple decades ago. They've been around. It's because people see the individualism in the United States as kind of an economic and also a social problem.
Hmm.
You're forced to think of yourself first, which means that our all of our places where we socialize and feel a sense of community are eroding. So
Yeah.
the communitarian vision was let's find ways to bring back other types of social institutions.